Good afternoon, colleagues. Here you're speaking to Ginilo Moya. I am the business coordinator and project developer from ISCA. Today I'll be standing in for Ms. Vinolia Masiba. She couldn't join us today. So Prof. Maria, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for accepting our request for being the guest speaker. I think I can just give 5 minutes for other members to just join in. Then at 3:05, we'll just start with our session. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Did you want to begin with me or are you coming later?
I'm just gonna when it's time, I'm just gonna give the housekeeping rules, then you can start.
Okay.
I'll just
okay.
let you. All right, thank you.
Okay. But before you go ahead, I've been trying to communicate to Amber that there has not been electricity in Kampala, and my battery is about to run out because
oh
I've
yes.
So
Kenilwe probably sorry, Prof. Kenilwe, can we just start to manage that? If you don't mind, those they will follow up on the yes. So just make sure you get the recordings, and then once Prof is done, so that we don't lose Prof because of the power.
Oh, okay, not a problem.
Thanks.
Okay, colleagues, can I just start with the housekeeping rules? As we come in, can we please switch off our mics, switch off our cameras so that we don't get network issues, so that we don't interrupt the session, as well as if you have any questions or any comments, please use the chat box. And then at the end of the presentation, we will recognize you, and then you may present your question or comment, or we'll just read it out. So please make use of the comments, the chat box, and then we will just recognize it later. All right, thank you. For today, our guest speaker is Dr. Maria Barifaijo. She is an educational leadership and management specialist with a specialization in human resource management and development. She is an associate consultant for Radix Management Consulting and also head of Department of Education Leadership and Management in the School of Management Science in Uganda Management Institute. She has had leadership training and consultancy experience in HE systems, human resource management, professional development, and research for over 20 years. She is also a vice chairperson of the African Network Internalization of Education. She is a coordinator of the Gender and Equality Budgeting, which is a national program. She is also an international consultant on education, leadership, and management change management, and professional development. Amongst her skills, she is a problem solver. She possesses excellent consulting, public relating, as well as interpersonal skills. She is self-driven, reliable, team player, and also result-oriented and a people's person. Prof. Maria, thank you for joining us today. I think we can just start with the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. And I had communicated to Amber that we had a challenge. I used 2 laptops and I had to share this because I realized that if I was to wait, we might be caught offside. So without wasting time, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to be here again. I was last here last September, and I'm happy to be here to share with you the challenges of research methods, specifically qualitative research methods. Before I go further, I want to put a disclaimer that in research methods, when it comes to research methods, I don't think there is any person who has a monopoly of those methods. As you can see, or as you have noticed, that we have so many resources out there, and there's a lot of conflicting information that makes everyone an expert and perhaps not one. So as I embark on this presentation, actually it is full of questions for the answers to be established by all of us. So the purpose of our interaction today is to look at these issues, perhaps when it comes to qualitative research methods, and my role is to talk about the qualitative data collection methods, analysis and tools. So first of all, we must understand why methodology, or what is methodology? Perhaps methodology is trying to find out. If you may, let me remove my video so that it doesn't slow my connectivity. It asks, what will you do to know what you want to know? Then we are talking of methods that we are going to interrogate today that asks, how will you do it in order to know? And then the tools or techniques that actually focuses on which questions will give you the answers. And specifically in these methods, we are looking at justification, which is a must, because this one focuses on why have you preferred the choice you have chosen as opposed to the rest. And then what we always forget as the researchers is that those methods, those choices you've made are not yours. You are not the architect of them. So you need to provide authority. So the question is, who is the authority and when was it established? And of course, last on this part, the question of support. Perhaps what we don't realize here is that we usually write this chapter mechanically without first of all citing the authors or the authorities, or even providing the support, asking the question or also focusing who else has successfully used the method. The order of presentation today is looking at the conceptualization, the data collection methods, and of course we shall be combining them with the tools as we move along. And we are going to interrogate those three modes of inquiry because we've found in literature with conflicting information. In some books, we find that these are known as approaches. In some other books, they are called designs, and in others, they are called methods. So we are going to interrogate that and then see where we can fit them. Yeah, I must say that qualitative is a very peculiar approach. Why? It is, first of all, very intimidating in terms of the kind of data it generates. And it's also peculiar in terms of the self-reported data, which oftentimes is not precisely measured. It's also less structured, easier to develop, but it's very, very difficult to analyze. It provides rich data, detailed and widely applicable, labor intensive, correct, and oftentimes it creates phobia because most people are excited about it. It is very exciting during the time of collecting the data, but when it comes to generating or analyzing it, interpreting it, providing explanation, it creates phobia. And of course, the biggest challenge is it has a lot of ambiguity because you generate a lot of information, longer reports, and perhaps which are very difficult to handle. And because it is very challenging to analyze, oftentimes someone reports in the methodology chapter that you have corrected or you have used or you have actually information on qualitative, but it is skipped. Perhaps these challenges are what makes it disappear. So the designs, the peculiarities of the designs, first of all, unlike quantitative, it doesn't test hypotheses or even focusing on the previous theories, and does not actually claim to develop the new theories. It doesn't even try to generalize findings. And it believes in looking at various options in order to believe in the data. In other words, translation is what is believed in qualitative, so that you can at least say, there's no way you can go wrong after going through all these processes. And do not develop response categories prior to conducting study. As we said, we are going to keep on providing questions, and the answers will come as we move along. So what about the data? The peculiarity of the data also is that you cannot reduce it to numbers. So you need the skill, you need the ability, you need the expertise on how you can present this information without making your report bulky. So data that are related to concepts, opinions, values, and behaviors of people. And there's no way you can actually minimize it and call it an outlier like you do in quantitative. Here, the different opinions matter. Each person's opinion matters. So this is the data that can be broken down through a number of processes and classification of coding to be able to come up with the information that is meaningful. Now, at one time I asked the students to research on what they think students, or the reaction of students when it comes to qualitative data or qualitative research. And I told them that actually it's not only in Uganda. As I was training Ugandans, I said it is everywhere. And when you ask, how would you draw the mayhem of qualitative research? And we came up with a number of them, but those are the ones that actually came out very, they were very exciting. First of all, the dynamics of qualitative data collection methods and tools emphasize these questions. And to me today, I'm not going to be going through the processes because all those things you know, the definitions you know, but the moment you say I'm going to use this method, the question will be, what is it? How is it going to be done? Why should it be applied? When is it usually done? Where is it applied? So to us in this discussion, the focus is going to be put on when you select a method, you select a tool, you need to answer these questions before you actually commit yourself and say, this is what I'm going to use. So without wasting so much time, these are just conceptualization. And the scholars are at the end in references, because I had to remove them and say, okay, this is in agreement with very many scholars. Unless some information here is very peculiar and I've not found it anywhere else, that's when I put the scholar. But if I find very many scholars talking about it, I will remove the scholars and put them in the references. But to cut the long story short, when we talk of qualitative data collection methods, it's to unravel what is not readily available. So the meaning of research methods, we all know, it's what the researchers use during the research study. They provide evidence for analysis in order to uncover new information. And of course, like we said, different types of research methods will require different tools for data collection, and oftentimes different techniques for analysis. The analysis itself is that it is the range of processes and procedures whereby we move from the qualitative data that have been collected into some form of explanation, understanding, or interpretation. I pause here to talk about this situation. Many times you find some quotations in dissertations and it remains there. There is no explanation, and therefore you are not communicating to the reader what that quotation means. For example, if you found a statement that one man's meat is another man's poison, and you leave it there in a specific research, it might have some different interpretations to different people. But for you, you are guided by the logic of your research. So you must be able to go and look, go ahead and explain exactly what that means. Before I proceed, is that data analysis, qualitative data collection has a principle of simultaneity. In other words, the data collection, the analysis, the interpretation take place at the same time. Now, the challenge here is, if this happens at the same time, why or where should we put the information or the data or the findings from this? If it happens at data collection and you are all at the same time analyzing it and interpreting it, where should it go? Should it go in the methodology section, or it goes to the presentation section, the results chapter? The two concepts here, research methods and the research methodology, is for emphasis. Research methods are those strategies and processes that a researcher devises to gather data. On the other hand, the research methodology is the body of practices that govern the acquisition of knowledge within a given field. So in other words, you need the methodology, and then eventually you'll break it into methods, or whichever way you want to go. Now, to put this is to clarify that, first of all, before you think of even the methods and tools and what have you, there must be a design that you follow for every approach of research. And then from there, you move to the research methodology. This one also has issues in literature where you find that some people begin with the methods and then they move to the research methodology. But whichever way you take, you're actually, provided you know what you're looking for, you get to where you want to go. And from the methods, then you are looking for the tools. You must ask the questions that are logical enough to be able to answer the questions you want to answer. So these are some of the methods. There are a number, but we decided to tackle this because research methods, if you are talking about the methods, you can spend a whole month talking about them, but we shall briefly talk about this, and eventually we talk about the considerations when you are looking at qualitative. First of all, the purpose of the evaluation is very critical. You need to ask questions. Will the method allow you to gather information that can be analyzed and presented in a way that will be credible and useful to you and the readers? You think about the respondents. What is the most appropriate method, considering how the respondents can best be reached, how they might best respond, the literacy levels, cultural considerations, ethical issues, etc. Then the resources available. We cannot downplay the issue of time, then money, of course, and staff. But when we talk of staff, most cases people think in terms of numbers. But here, I must say we are talking in terms of quality, because are these people trained? So are you using the right design? And these are all some questions you need to ask before you begin. The type of information you need, and then interruptions to program or participants, which method is likely to be least intrusive. All these are the considerations that any researcher would be mindful about. So data collection strategies are many, and the researchers or the scholars are saying there is no best way, except that the decision that you take as a researcher will depend on a number of aspects. First of all, what you need to know will inform that the method you use and the strategies. Where the data resides, you must also think about it. Where are you going to get it from? How possible is it? Resources and time available. Complexity of the data to be corrected. Do you have the competency to handle this? The frequency of data collection. And of course, the intended forms of data analysis. Those are very critical. So we are saying that the choice will always depend on the situation, and that each technique is more appropriate in some situations than others. And of course, we should all know that if not all, some techniques are subject to bias. We need to know that as you collect data as a person, you have your own perception, you have your own beliefs, you have your own considerations. You came with something in your mind, and it's very difficult to change it once you find that it's not what you found. Let me say this. Most people think the research methodology section is the easiest chapter to write. But I can assure you, it is the most difficult chapter, and it causes a lot of confusion. Because first of all, the different scholars, the different publications out there by different scholars are contradictory in nature. That is one. We go to class, the professors have been grounded differently. I'm wondering if there are questions coming in, or there are people who are responding. Thank you. So the type of research determines the research methodology which underpin methods for data collection, analysis, and interpretation. So according to those researchers, the scholars, that the selected methods or methodology must be suited and capable of meeting your objectives. Now, what has remained static? The students will present their proposals with a planned methodology. And when they come back from the field, you'll find that it is exactly the same, with only the tenses changed if you are lucky. If you are a professor supervising this person, the only change the thing in this methodology chapter will be the tenses. But otherwise, the rest will remain the same. But I must say that when you have come back, when you've come back from the field, you need to detail your planned research. You detail your research journey before and narrate your research experience after. So before the research, you make certain decisions for the routes you want to take, if it's a journey. Then on return, you need to tell your reader exactly why you made such decisions, your right decisions, and how they benefited you, the wrong predictions, what happened, and lessons you learned. If you don't do this, the mistakes you made with your methods and tools, someone else will actually encounter them. So when you mention them, you'll actually help the other readers that that was the wrong choice you made. And if it was the right choice, then you also need to inform or advise your colleagues. These are some of the rules of qualitative data. First of all, the most important thing is that you need to be sensitive to the burden of others. 2, you must pre-test, and pre-test. That tool must be pre-tested to be sure that you have the validity, you have the reliability, and you have the dependability. When you pre-test, you get to know exactly what people are expecting. Establish procedures and follow them. Maintain accurate and verify accuracy of coding. So the criteria for judging qualitative research has 4 criteria. So one of them is credibility, transferability, dependability, and conformability. So you need to make sure that you ensure all these are there, or you'll achieve them. Now, as we embark on individual methods, I have always wondered, when you look at students' works, especially the methodology chapter, I'm looking at genuineness vis-a-vis the formality of qualitative data collection methods. Why I am interrogating this is that you find students with very many methods they claim to have used during their research. Focus group discussion, observation, diaries, documental analysis. But I can assure you, when you go to the data section, results section, you will only find interviews for qualitative, and the rest will be for quantitative. So the question is, what happens? Now, as we said, as we were beginning, the methods are already known to all of us. But what is very critical is that for every method you select as a researcher, as a scholar, you must ask. It's not about being excited because other people have used them, being, enthused by your professors because they have recommended them, but you need to ask yourself, what is it? Yeah, if you're talking about participatory method, what is it? Why should I use it? Or how do we use it? When is it usually applied? And of course, where do we apply it? It's from answering these questions that you will actually determine or decide to use it or not use it. And I want to go through this because everything here we know observation, but I want to concentrate or spend some more time on the observation methods. I find observation methods to be the most reliable method, the most believed method, because first of all, it's very clear what you are going to observe, but then when it comes to your dissertation or it comes to your report, whatever the report is for, there is nothing regarding what was observed. So my question is, what happens to what was observed? Where has the data disappeared? And who is responsible for the disappearance of what was observed? I have always asked, where do you think the observed information should be put? Should it be in the methodology section, or should it go to the results section? But then, do you think the students know what to observe and how to report? Or do you know the professors are very keen when it comes to looking out for these methods. First of all, when you're supervising this person, do you realize that this person has presented about 5 methods? And when it comes to the report, this person has only 2 or even 1. And you are not even asking for what happened. And yet, when you look at the way they have justified these methods in the methodology, it's very exciting. So you wonder what happens. And these are some of the questions I want us to answer or reflect on. Then we have these interviews. First of all, I have no so much issues with interviews, except, first of all, you need to ask all these questions and you must answer them because there is information. It's not about thinking about method and you're advancing it. This is what I want to use. It's not about wanting, it's about logic. So when you say interviews, what is it? Why are you using it? How should you use it? When are you supposed to use it? And where should you use it? Now, the challenge with interviews, like I said, you find that there's so many quotations, but there's nothing talking about them. And yet it is you who was there who should be able to tell us because you knew or you know exactly what you wanted to achieve. The focus group discussion also, first of all, here, I'm not going to say this is what it is, but you must ask yourself these questions. First of all, it has very clear principles. When you're using focus group discussion, it has very clear principles. Then it has a number limit. It has a composition issues. Who are the people who should be who should comprise this focus group? The issue of diversity matters. For example, you cannot be having a group of single ladies or single mothers and you want to guide them on how to manage life and all that. And then you see these other people who are very comfortable and settled in their homes and they are joining the group, then no, you're not going to come to any agreement. So you need to learn the principles of every method you are going to use. The diaries and reported checklists. First of all, very rarely do the researchers for academic work use this. But if you want to make a decision, a personnel decision, many times these guide the evaluators. When you are evaluating someone, either for any personnel decision, these are very critical. So, but you need to know when you use it, why you should use it, how you use it, and where it should be applicable. Now, the documentary analysis is another method that has continued to challenge us. And I must say that all of us, because you will see very few aspects of documents are mentioned here. And then you wonder, if you went out, for example, to investigate the performance of secondary schools, and you are talking of documentary analysis, and I don't see anything there, you are going out to see how these pharmacies are getting and distributing medicine, and you don't go to the agencies or regulatory bodies to get that information, you wonder. So you need to answer these questions. Now, I'm giving an example here for emphasis, because usually when I'm supervising students, these are some of the things that intrigue me. You are interested in academic performance of pupils, and you are talking of records of grades at admissions. Where would you go for this information? Because we have an examination center called UNEB. We have a National Curriculum Development Center. We have a number of places you could go, but someone will present results without any of this. And somehow you wonder, what was this one? What did this person go out to look for? I am also looking at how you evaluate quality of institutions or graduates. And without actually looking for information or documents from these regulatory bodies, the admission criteria, or even tracer studies, because most institutions have conducted tracer studies. So how do you arrive at the conclusion without looking at all this? So these are some of the examples, there are a number of them, and I'm getting them from some of my students' works. And you are saying you have been investigating the retirement, and you have concluded without actual information from the National Social Security Fund or public service. So I want us to know that when you are looking for information, you must find, or you must ask yourself, who has the expertise? If you are talking of documentary analysis, what are the most logical, relevant documents where I can get information to inform my study? Now, although this is one of the inquiries under investigation where some people call it an inquiry, others call it an approach, others call it a method, and others a tool, I have encouraged the students over and again that it is very, very important that instead of always looking at the negativity, the deficiencies, always looking at or establishing a problem, defining a problem. What if you appreciate some situation, some happening, some program, people, okay? And also with this, you have to ask your question, these questions: when you do it, why, how, and where. So appreciative inquiry is about appreciating and valuing what is. You are envisioning, that is what might be. You discuss what should be. You assume what will be. So an organization is a mystery to be embraced. So you need actually to look at the other side. And I'm wondering, is it the supervisors we don't have to be able to guide the students? Because we all know that once something is appreciated, it will be repeated. And I always tell my students that the moment you fail to raise anything that is very significant, then it will never be repeated. There are 5 foundation approaches for appreciative inquiry, and we are saying it has 5 principles, which I'm not going to read, but I want you to go back and try to find out whether your researches can be around appreciative inquiry, and then you are able to look at the wholeness, yeah, whereby you say everyone matters. The principle of choice, the enactment principle, the narrative principle, the awareness principle, and of course, once you are able to come up with this, you'll be able to manage appreciative inquiry. So these are some of the other principles of appreciative inquiry. And here, the 5 are the major ones where we are saying that when you inquire, it would lead to change. There's some simultaneity. 2, there is anticipatory, a sense of hope. It is poetic, meaning is like you fantasize, always look out for the best. Think about what happened, something good out of the bad. The constructionist, the survival thriver, meaning that if you've survived an accident and you have survived, do you think that is negative? Possibly look at it from that perspective. So when you feel good, you will do good. That is the positive principle. And I always tell people that who told you that we are always looking for the negativity? Why don't you take the other angle and actually appreciate something so that we can repeat it? I've given people, we have got some professors who have become professors at age 30. And every time I mention it, people said, when did you go to school? Yes, at 30, this person has done all the levels of education. This person has published. This person has supervised. Person has generated income. This person has done some consultancies. This person has already engaged in community service, because those are indicators for someone to move up the career. So someone at 30 has become a professor. Now at 60, the mandatory requirement for retirement is 60. You say, okay, hand over the key and quit. Hand over the university house, hand over the keys, hand over the office. And I always tell people, why not sit down with this person, try to find out how did this person become a professor at 30. People are struggling by 60. They are struggling to actually to retain the position or the lowest rank because they have not been able to climb. It's not that they don't want, it's not that they don't know how, it's not that they have not tried. But when you look at it from a positive side, other than saying lack of promotion, lack of career growth, look at it from how it happened for the other categories, and then see how it can happen for the rest. Then we're talking of the sense of hope. When you are hopeful, every time you are hopeful, you say, okay, I'll get there. When you submit an article and it is rejected, you should have a sense of hope. Actually, they are making you smarter. You're becoming brighter. You're actually becoming even a better person than you are. Then when it comes to poetic, don't always dwell so much on the negative aspects. Colleagues, appreciative inquiry is worthwhile. You should encourage people, you should encourage scholars to actually engage in it, and actually you find that even the organizations, even the institutions we work for, we work with, will change the way they think. So the basic questions here is, in under appreciative inquiry, is what in this particular setting or context makes organizing possible? 2, what gives life to organization and allows it to function at its best? 3, what are the possibilities, latent or expressed, that provide opportunities for even better, more effective, and value congruent forms of organizing? As I was introducing appreciative inquiry, the scholars are down there. Cooperida is actually the proponent of this appreciative inquiry. If you read about it, actually you'll like it. And I encourage you to adopt it, or encourage some of the students or scholars or researchers to use it. They will change everything. So yes, data interpretation, as we come to the conclusion, data interpretation and conclusion, is when you are interpreting your data, you are answering 2 questions. One, first of all, there are 4 questions to answer, and then you must remember one extra one. What is important in the data? Why is it important? What can be learned from it? So what? Now, I want to take us back to the students who usually come for viva voce examinations, because in Uganda, most universities, most institutions of higher learning, when you have submitted your thesis, and you must come and defend your work. And one of the questions that students often fail is, what has been your contribution in the scholarly world? Remember, you have a whole 200-page document, and they want you to cite only one contribution. What is your contribution? And students always look at people and they cannot even imagine they are looking for one thing. Because if you can remember that one thing, it will change the world. So remember, interpretation depends on the perspective of the researcher. You are the instrument, you are the analyst, you are the interpreter, you are everything. So you need that skill, you need the ability, you need the honesty. We call it intellectual honesty, to actually, I know bias cannot be eliminated completely, but when you are actually with intellectual honesty, you can actually try to minimize it and make sure that you as an instrument, analyst, and an interpreter, you are going to give the world the best. So you need, first of all, to be organized in qualitative research, exercise perseverance, because as we started, it has masses of data, and actually it's very difficult to reduce it. You should be able to deal with ambiguity, exercise flexibility, be creative, be rigorous and ethical, have an extensive vocabulary. Because when you collect data, different people, if, for example, it's a cross-section of respondents, you'll get different responses, and you need that vocabulary. As we conclude, ladies and gentlemen, when you're analyzing qualitative data, you need to generate numerous options. One of the dynamics in qualitative research is like, while in quantitative, the canons of analysis are known, are conventional. For qualitative, it's subject to the researcher. So you must generate the numerous options, trust your intuition and empathy, use multiple stimuli. You need to sidetrack, zigzag. You circumnavigate, change patterns, make linkages, and finally draw conclusion from your qualitative data as you analyze it. Because eventually when you draw conclusion, even these people who don't know qualitative, they will judge the quality of your work. So before you make a final conclusion, go through this. So when we talk about this, it's like going line by line, going through it, and then eventually cross the lines and see what makes sense and what doesn't. Now, finally, Sir Arthur Conan said that I never guess. It is a capital mistake to realize before one has data. Insensibly, one begins to twist facts and theories instead of theories to suit facts. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to dream big. I want to wish you success and thank you so much. These are the different resources you can access. Some of them are very old, but for some of the approaches, you can actually use them to arrive at the newest. I thank you so much. And I am handing over to the chair of this session.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Maria. Thank you for this enlightening presentation. Thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, now colleagues, we are now come down to the question and answer session. Please be reminded that you can use the chat box to send through your questions and also your comments. Okay, while we wait for that, I think I'll just go through the first question, which is from Protus Lumiti. This colleague says, how does one manage subjectivism and personal perceptions in regards to the qualitative research?
Subjectivity. Since I'm not able to get the names very well, don't worry. I'll just respond by concepts, yeah?
Okay.
Okay. How many questions are we taking? Remember, I'm remaining with only 10% battery.
Okay. As of now, we only have like 2 questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Perhaps if we can get the second one and I respond at once, I'm remaining with only 10%. I'm sorry, we have not had this morning till now, but I'm thankful to God that I had to do marathon in this presentation.
All right, thank you, Prof.
Yeah, so what is that second question so that I take both of them at once?
Okay, let me just go through it. The second question is, I lost it. Please explain what the participatory methods entail.
Participatory. Okay. Okay, let me start with the first one. Thank you very much. Actually, as I was ending, that's why I almost ended, because I was saying that many times we go out with our own perceptions. We go out with what we believe. And then when we reach there, we fail to believe or we fail to agree with what we've been given. And because you are the tool of data collection, you are the analytical tool, and you are the interpreter, it poses a danger of subjectivity. Now, when you are trained, and we have said you need intellectual honesty to say, okay, this is what I thought, but that is not how it is. But many times when you are reporting, many times we encourage the scholars to make that declaration. With due respect, everything was done to avoid subjectivity or even bias. And but everyone has a position, okay? But what I'm saying is that you need to a certain extent, try to avoid, this is what you think. Because you think that institution cannot deliver, cannot do ABCD, when eventually it excels, you still want to underrate it because that's what you went out thinking. But somehow you need to be honest. And honesty is very key in qualitative data, in qualitative research. Participatory, actually, in most cases is done by the medical practitioners. It is also done in terms of disasters, terms of catastrophes, because you want to work together with the people who have been, who are involved, who are affected in a situation. So you need to, first of all, when it comes to where the challenges are, you're moving together with these people. You're not only sitting down to listen to what they have to say. So you are participating, you take walks, you move along, and you are able to know exactly what it is. So like now when we talk of COVID, and we are talking of some challenges, or some even storms, hailstorms, we are talking of a number of challenges. As a researcher, you need to participate. It is a bit different from the observation thing we are talking about, but you need to participate. You know, some of the approaches, you are not trying to identify a problem. You're trying to understand how people respond to certain situations. And this is one of them, how people are responding to certain situations and how people actually are interpreting it. That is why I said that you need to go back and read about ethnography and see, because it is not about problems or problem identification, although it is focusing on a culture, and sometimes you need to find that is not understood, which can actually be interpreted as a problem in terms of knowledge gap, including appreciative inquiry and case studies, which actually are not looking specifically for problems, but you are looking at the thread that is running through. Okay. Moderator, I'm remaining with 5 minutes.
Okay, I think, Prof, I think we can just adjourn, but before that, colleagues, I'm really sorry that we couldn't take any more of your questions, but Prof. Maria had mentioned that she hasn't had electricity the whole day, so she is low on battery life. But I will just encourage that you send through your requests to masipanv@isca.org so that we can send you the presentation. Hopefully, the presentation can answer your questions. I am really sorry on her behalf. Prof. Maria, I really, really want to thank you for this enlightening presentation once again.
Welcome.
Any last words coming from your side?
Yes, I wanted to, if you're talking to me, I wanted to say that I'm open. The participants, I'm so sorry because I really wanted to spend some more time and we interact and maybe But my email, I'm open. You can access my email. We can interact. We can chat. For example, if you want to use any of the approaches that I've shared with you, we can, interact and see how we can do it. So it's okay, because here we are doing it as partners, and I don't mind being approached by any participant who needs my, we can interact.
Okay. Colleagues, I think when I'm sending through the presentation, I'll just attach Prof. Maria's email address along with the presentation. Prof. Ambe, do you have any last words coming from your side?
No, not really. Thanks very much, Prof. I see Brian. Maybe if Prof. Mariette can just attend to Brian. If it kicks us out, we all know that formally we have ended this session. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mlwelu, you can just take yourself off the mic.
Thank you so much, Dr. I really appreciate the presentation. For my questions and the main issues, I think I'll utilize the presentation once you send it through the emails. Thank you so much.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Actually, we can continuously interact via my email, because we are now partners. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Please be reminded the email is masipanv@isca.org.za. You can just go through the chats quickly and just see the spelling of it. But thank you, colleagues. Have a lovely evening. Goodbye.